All right, welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for the City of Bonnie Lake for October 25th, 2022. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll? I'm here. Oh, I can barely hear you, though. What?
He's on mute. Nope.
Here.
Baldwin. Here. Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Fullerton. Here. Councilmember McClymans.
Here.
Councilmember Swatman.
Present.
And Councilmember Watson.
Here. All right. Doesn't look like there's any agenda modifications. We have no announcements, appointments, or presentations. So let's get to public hearings and citizen comments. We don't have a public hearing, so we will go directly to citizen comments. This is your time to approach the dais. You'll have 5 minutes to speak, and please state your name and put your address on the record.
Good evening. Nancy and Pat from Corrado. We live at 9307 185th Avenue Place East. I have my notes just to ensure that I knew what I wanted to say here. So our primary concern and reason for providing input tonight is specific to our water and sewer rates. From our perspective, we're paying way too much money on a monthly basis for sewer and water for two people living in a relatively small home. We can't afford to water our lawn in the summer months due to the increased rates during those months. I've done some of my own research with Puyallup City residents and have tracked our monthly bill over the last 20 months. On average, we're paying $183 a month. Puyallup residents with water and sewer are only invoiced every other month, and similar family situation to ours only pay $200 for 2 months versus our average of $366. Then to top it off, we have really poor water pressure, and the more houses and apartments that go in, the worse it gets. I've been pursuing detailed information regarding this situation since April of 2022, sent an email with questions, and have received responses from our city clerk to all of the questions, and providing links to minutes and agendas, past presentations, and noting that the council had hired a consulting firm to provide an assessment, but there was no specific due date for this work. To further engage, my husband and I have attended council meetings and workshops to try to better understand the process. I saw that the proposed agenda packet for this evening had a line item entitled Monthly Utility Billing by Stephanie T., but then when I pursued further into the link for the full agenda packet, found that it was not listed. I followed up with the city clerk yesterday and was told that the information wasn't yet fully available and thus wouldn't be discussed. To say the least, I was really frustrated. I've spent many hours since April reading through links, presentations, agendas, sending emails, talking with friends in surrounding communities, and trying to educate myself on how the city council works and when sewer and water rates would be discussed. As one example of my efforts, I sent 8 questions to the city clerk on 10/14 and received a response the same day. However, her answer contained 9 links to various pages and presentations and things I needed to go read, and pages upon pages of information that I guess I was supposed to read through. I didn't. This is simply a lesson in frustration for me. I don't know if you've seen, but our water and sewer rates are being discussed in the public Nextdoor neighbor app. People are not happy. Many voted for new blood on the city council that ran on a platform of listening to the community and making a difference for the residents. Water and sewer rates were specifically discussed during that campaign process. I'm curious to know if you've reached out to your constituents in any meaningful way to understand what is important to us. I understand that you don't answer questions during council meetings, and we're not allowed to speak at workshops, and that this can't be a conversation. But I would encourage you to figure out a way to listen and really hear what is important to the residents of this community. In my humble opinion, you need to figure out what is important to the community and prioritize that agenda that is important to us. You must figure out the best way possible and easiest for residents to understand your agenda, your priorities. What are you working on? without having to check out web pages and agendas, search out link upon link to even try to figure out what is going on in our city council. This process is not easy to understand and certainly doesn't help the average resident get involved. How many thousands of people live in Bonnie Lake? And this is what we have. We're retired and have time available to read through the information and continue to pursue answers. But I'm sure people and families that have full-time jobs and children to raise do not have time for this process. Even I, with time available, have reached the end of my ability to continue with this process. I'm really frustrated, you guys. Very frustrated. I have to say, if the city's goal is to confuse, frustrate, and anger people so they just give up, you've met that objective. Beyond utility rates, one of the workshops I attended, there was a lengthy presentation and discussion from a third-party company relative to providing before and after school care for elementary children. In my opinion, that isn't a city council issue. It belongs with the school district, not the city council. As well, the 410 development project was discussed at length, a project that is even beyond city limits into Pierce County that it seems the city is managing. I wonder if this is the best use of city resources. I understand, after reading some of the links mentioned earlier, that there was public comment. But again, I wonder how that was publicized to the citizens of Bonnie Lake and Pierce County. Thank you for listening. We can only hope that you heard us and might have some small impact and that perhaps positive change could occur. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ma'am. When you mentioned about the process that the city council goes through, we are working on that to kind of amend it to make it independent to where we can make it more of a free flow conversation. I know that I ask questions when I'm really not supposed to, according to the rules. But one thing that I can tell you is that, and I think you probably did get this in Madam Clerk's emails back to you, is that we did hire a consulting firm. It's the industry standard for them to take about 6 to 8 months to get back to us. And we finally this week got a date to where we expect that study to be done on November 15th. So we're about 2 weeks away from getting that study. But I believe all of the council shares your frustration. I know I do. And we are trying very hard to get it not only to lower the bills, but get it into a sustained lowering of the bills, not just lower it for a couple of 3 months or even a year, just for over the next year for it to go back up again. We're looking at long-term change here. And so I share in your frustration. I know everybody does. And it's one of our higher priorities, if not the highest, trying to get the utility bills down.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, just
Yes.
to clarify, the study he talked about was a utility water sewer rate study.
I understand.
Okay. I just wanted that on the record as well, just so. Yeah.
I asked back in April. Like I said, I've been working on this, folks, and in email. When I say that's via raising questions and sending emails, and I get answers. Not necessarily answers I like, but I get answers. And the study and the contract and everything that was sent to me, yes, I scanned through that. I used to do this for a living. I've been a contract manager and a sourcing manager for 40 plus years in corporate America. And so this raising rates to cover costs or spending more money and covering costs, my job, and I would have been fired over some of this stuff about raising costs and not doing due diligence about the suppliers that you chose and going about trying to save money. I mean, I saved millions of dollars for the companies I worked for. I mean, that just spending money and more money and more money and more money, that is not the way to run a business. It wouldn't be acceptable.
No, I agree.
So, yes, I've even seen the study. I know what we paid for the consulting firm. I saw all of that back in April, and I've been here and asked the question. Pat and I were here in August and asked the question. I also saw some information in September that talked about there was an error and people were complaining on the neighborhood about getting bills of $700-800 because there was an error. But yes, we have nobody will call it an error now or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but your residents are not happy.
Oh, yes, I'm well aware of that.
Well over my 5 minutes, so thank you.
Well, that's okay. Would you be willing to stick around for the end of the meeting? I can talk to you for about 5 minutes. My daughter has a concert down at Bonnie Lake High, but I think our meeting will probably be over well before then. Hopefully. If Mr. Decker sticks to his 5 minutes, which.
Councilmember McClymonds minutes.
Oh, Councilmember McClymonds.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for coming and speaking. All right, Mr. Decker.
Council, Mayor, Dan Decker, 20170th Street East, Bonnie Lake, Washington. As you know, I'm past council member. I said I'd be talking about face masks again in the near future, and I'm happy to see everyone stopped wearing those face masks that were killing you. I appreciate you for that. The American Medical Authority said in April 2020 that the mask joke is merely a talisman, a face mask that is thought to have magical power and to bring good luck. Yet in cases of the talisman, this talisman will kill you. This face mask will kill you. It has been proven that the face mask is not science but dogma, a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as true, an opinion which amounts to horse poop when it comes to face masks. Pinocchio and his buddy, the quack, demand we wear face masks, except it has been proven the following does happen to those that wear the face mask. Long-term wear of a face mask cause adverse psychological and physiological effects such as deficiency in the amount of oxygen reaching tissue. The major tissue would be the brain. It makes a person stupid. No oxygen, no ability to think correctly. Having too much carbon dioxide in the blood, shortness of breath, increased elasticity and toxicity, and activation of fear and stress response come from wearing the mask. Now that's really a dangerous moment. Now we've got a bunch of people fearful and in stress, and who knows what that fear is going to cause. Probably going to cause somebody to kill somebody. That's the way fear usually works. It weakens the immune system, causes fatigue, causes headaches such as migraines, decline in cognitive performance, viral infections and illness, and it even causes death to wear that mask. Many people who died because of the COVID virus, they probably died because they had that mask on. In reference, Dr. Martin Kolhoff, professor of science, Harvard University, YouTube, not allowing any information like I have just mentioned on YouTube. Shame on YouTube. State of Texas repealing its mask mandate. Professor Roch, this is a hard name to say. Let's see if I can say it. Van Sheelabium, Palo Alto, California, Stanford University, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at a roundtable in 2021 have all brought what I've just mentioned in conclusion to be more true than not. Thank you, Council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Decker. Is there anybody else for the good of the order? Okay, moving on. We have, looks like we have no correspondence.
Somebody else?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, sir. Come on up. Sorry, didn't move. I was moving too fast.
I did very interesting about this meeting. And in written comments, exactly what she said.
Hmm.
But I wasn't. Yes. Water rate increase. That Not the case?
No.
Okay.
Or no, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay, and so I don't want to take up too much time because I'm not prepared. I didn't know what I was walking into, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
A lot of people mirror what she said the same way. A lot of people I know. Just wanted to say that. Thanks. I'll sit and listen now. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. And that is, I mean, that's a wonderful point, and I believe it's a wonderful point that was brought up before, in that I agree with you. You have roughly 23,000 citizens in the city, and it seems like we are just really underrepresented when it comes to people coming to the city council meetings. We are trying various communication ways, like through social media and everything, to get the word out there that we do have these meetings going on, and encouraging people to come and air your grievances. And as I stated, it would be more of a free flow in the future, as opposed to the just coming up and stating things and us not, and just hearing it and going on. So if you can get the word out there, everything helps. I know. Okay. All right. Well, Oh, I'm sorry. Did we have? Councilmember Baldwin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. And I completely agree with the same frustration as a Bonnie Lake resident myself. But not only that, but just having these meetings and information be more clear, for it not to be so confusing, because, these meetings are for you. But not only that, you don't ever have to have anything prepared or ever have to apologize coming up here. It really is. This is your platform. And so you don't have to prepare anything. You can come before the people that represent you and say whatever it is you need to say to us. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All there. All right. And I don't hear much from 78. Up on Friday, it said we're going to talk about the sewer. Where are you? Mm-hmm. Then it's not there. Like, then I have to send. Oh, we don't have all the information yet. Yeah. A lot of work.
Mm.
So anyway, I'll stop there.
And let me apologize for my reaction. I did smile and chuckle a little bit, but that's only because I relate to exactly what you're saying. I'm in agreement with that, and I'm not trying to make fun or anything along those lines.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Fullerton.
I do want to say thank you to everybody for coming. And just so you know, the last two workshops, when it's our opportunity for us to actually have a conversation with each other and kind of have some back and forth banter, the last two workshops we actually have been discussing the water rates at length. It wasn't on the agenda, but it was during our open council time when we were able to have discussions. And so it is definitely extremely important to us. And we are trying to look at every avenue and every way that we can figure out how to get these water rates lowered and looked at sometimes it's overwhelming and it does feel like it's kind of out of our control, but we are definitely working on it. And that's all I can say is, it's on my heart. It's on my mind. This is not something that I feel that the people of Bonnie Lake should have to deal with. And I appreciate your time and thank you so much for coming. And I hope that we can get the word out to have more and more citizens come and speak during this time on whatever is on your mind, what's ever bothering you in this city. We want to hear it. And sometimes this is the opportunity for us to hear from you because, I do try to talk to people when I go to the grocery store. If it comes up that I'm on city council and I ask them, what can I work on? And number one is always the water rates. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Fullerton. Next, we do have committee reports. Let's see. Finance Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finance Committee met tonight. Deputy Mayor Carter was remote, but this was a very brief meeting.
Glad to have him here now.
We had a update from staff, which all the city council did get that, so I don't need to go over the higher letters and conditional letters on that. We moved forward to the Finance Committee portion tonight, the resolution for a new city attorney. We reviewed our minutes and we adjourned.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Community Development, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Development Committee has not met since our last council meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Swatman. Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Safety meeting will meet next on the 15th of November. Second floor, upstairs, 3:30 p.m.
That has to be the most concise committee report agenda that we've had in 2022. So I don't see any other reports. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We now have this consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt?
So move. Second.
Is there any discussion on anything on the consent agenda? Because
No.
it's the consent agenda, no. So all in favor of adopting the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, consent agenda has been adopted. So let's move on to, looks like we do have Finance and Public Safety Committee issues. Item A, Madam Clerk.
This is AB 22-152, Resolution 3099. The council motion would be to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement for legal services with Inslee, Best, Dozie, and Ryder.
So moved.
Seconded.
Do we have any further discussion on the matter?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Evans.
Thank you for the opportunity. Deputy Mayor Carter was unable to attend the interview on that, asked me to sit in for him, and it was a great opportunity to meet all three of the candidates that were out there applying for the, or putting out contracts for this. Inslee Best was, they came through with all the right answers. Everyone was more than well qualified, but I think, as we can see here, Inslee Best, I think is going to be the best to represent us. They aligned with a lot of our core values and some of the legislation and litigation that we would likely see in our city. So I fully recommend them and hope this passes tonight.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Deputy Mayor Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just say that I work with Inslee Best at my other job as well. And so I've worked with them at length on different issues or whatnot, and I find them to be very good. I was happy to see that they came through here for the city of Bonnie Lake.
Oh, Councilmember Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going through their literature and our backgrounds, some we have on, I think they're a good fit for our city. They have local cities that they work with, like you spoke about already, and I think they'd be a good addition to our legal department.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Watson. Councilmember Baldwin.
And looking just through the document here and even just finding out more information about Jennifer Robertson in particular, I was really impressed with her lengthy just government background and even just being a part of different positions even within a city. So I was really impressed with this, and I think this is a really good choice.
Good. Any further comment before we go to the vote? Well, I do have one comment to make before we go to the vote. And as Councilmember Evans was, I was part of the final vetting committee on the three firms that did interview with us. I do agree with everybody that has spoken tonight that Inslee Best was the best fit for us, including the rates. I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised by what came up there, because that is a little bit lower than the industry standard. But yes, I was personally impressed by who will be representing us. So anyway, at this point, we will take it to a vote. All in favor of adopting Inslee Best as our new city attorney, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, looks like we have unanimously adopted Inslee Best as our new city attorney. So November 1st, tell them, Mr. Vodopich, I'm going to put them to work. They may be regretting.
Yes, I've already been in contact with them, and Jennifer will be here next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, can we move on to the Public Safety Committee issue?
This is AB 22-149, Ordinance D 22-149. The council motion would be to amend Bonnie Lake Municipal Code number 9.13 on liquor and controlled substances. Ordinance 1444, Section 1 of 2012, and Ordinance 1452, Section 4 of...
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Who wants?
We have a presentation first.
Oh, okay. I imagine that would be you, Mr. Prosecutor.
Yeah, that is correct. So Joshua Candia, for the record, I'm the prosecutor here in Bonnie Lake and standing in for Dina Burke today. So this is, I won't take too much of your time. This is just a quick highlight of all of the ordinances. It's on the board behind you. I'm not sure if everybody can see it. It's kind of hard to see with the lights, but
We can see
We can see it on our screens.
We have it right here.
Yeah, mine is
way better
different.
than
I'm
what
looking at all of us looking at the screen.
So everybody's probably well aware of the trajectory of drug crimes throughout the state of Washington. Pre-2021, and that's pre this Blake decision, there was no intent required to charge somebody with felony possession of drug paraphernalia. Thereafter, there was a case called State v. Blake, and in that case, they said that it is excess of the state's police powers to find any felony guilty without any sort of intent requirements. So thereafter, in response to that, the legislature passed RCW 1031-115, where now you have to have your 3 drug referrals, and there are very few, if any, intra-agency databases where you can determine who has how many drug referrals. And so we are trying as hard as we can in order to stop as much of this out and open use of drugs. But, again, the trajectory is clearly, so since 2021, and I could probably Google a plethora of other issues or instances, and if you just walk through Seattle, you'll find it there too. But so there are plenty of issues where the drugs are out and about in the middle of the public, and so that's the concern. So the new municipal code section these are a couple of the highlights. So use of dangerous drugs in public, this would be a misdemeanor for use of dangerous drugs in public. There's a definition for dangerous drugs, and I'm sure you guys have all looked through that. Unlawful deposit of dangerous drugs and drug paraphernalia. So this would no longer be something just littering. If you were to deposit any sort of needles or any sort of used glass pipes or bulbs or something of that sort, it would end up being a misdemeanor. Unlawful to aid or abet furnishing certain drugs to persons in jail or custody of police. This is actually kind of helpful because being the prosecutor, I've heard we've had some issues where, they'd be in a jail and some of the trustees would be sneaking in drugs or something like that. And we don't have a jail here. But if anybody were to be in custody or that were to be an issue, it would be a misdemeanor as well. Places of resort for users of narcotics and or dangerous drugs declared nuisance. This is something that, we do have some areas throughout Bonnie Lake that I've seen on the ride-alongs that I get to go on, and so they know of these areas, and this would be something that would be really helpful as well. And then, again, this is the unlawful or to frequent or be in a place where narcotics and or dangerous drugs are unlawfully kept, used, or disposed of. And this would be another way of helping clear out some of those areas. Again, this would be a misdemeanor. So drug traffic loitering, this would be a gross misdemeanor to intentionally solicit another to engage in conduct that violates the drug laws. And so we have essentially, right, and then this would be the severability. So this is if one section is held unconstitutional, the rest will still remain in effect. So we do have to have some sort of difference between gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor, and a lot of the times the severity of a crime would lead a court or a higher court to overturn certain laws. So if we keep the severity lower for now, and we can kind of test it out to see for sure, but that would definitely be one of the reasons for why we have the difference between misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor. And then severability is up here as well. So that way, if one thing is challenged, not the entire code is challenged, just the one part of that, the new code. So are there any questions? I hope that went fast enough for everybody.
Anybody have any questions? Because I do after everybody gets done. Councilmember Evans.
Not so much a question, but just a comment. This is pretty much modeled after the city of Kent.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to give everyone a timeline because everyone says there's inefficiency in government. Kent passed this on their city council on September 12th. It went public after that. We discussed it in our public safety on 9/20, 6 days later, or 8 days later. Dina and her team had a draft ready for us at the next public safety meeting on 10/18, and here it is before us on 10/25. So I just want to say thanks. This was initially going to go on the consent agenda. I asked them to pull that off so we could see a presentation, but really I wanted them to get some of the credit for how fast they moved on this. We saw an opportunity in public safety. We brought it up, and they acted quickly on it. And so thank you, Joshua, and your team for being able to get this done as fast as you did. And Ms. Burke's not here tonight, but thank you to her as well for government in action, not inaction, but in action.
That is a point well taken. Councilmember Baldwin.
Yeah, I just want to say, being in public safety, we have just been going rounds and rounds, super frustrated with crime and everything that's been going on, especially with drugs. And I think the biggest thing is in some of the reports that we get, drugs are going down, right? But then crime is going up. And so we know that that's not because drugs have become suddenly absent. And so I really, really thank your team for getting that together. We were so surprised at the turnaround and just the ways in which we are going to be able to hold people accountable here in Bonnie Lake. And so I really thank you. We are so tired of just the drugs and the issues.
Absolutely. Do we have anybody else who wishes to comment or question? Okay. I do have a couple of direct questions, and I'm sorry that Ms. Burke isn't here to help you with this. But you did touch upon it in your presentation, and I thank you for that. When I was reading over the language in the statute, and one thing that I wish to put to clarify for people, a misdemeanor is a crime that is up to 90 days in jail and up to $1,000 fine. A gross misdemeanor is a little bit more severe than that, and it would go up to 364 days in jail and up to a $5,000 fine. And when I was reading this, as you said, you're testing the severity, but when I was going through it, it's like, why isn't all of these things gross misdemeanors?
Right. So I spoke to Dina about this too. And thank you all for your thank yous. I didn't do much other than read through this a couple times, read through the code, read what Kent did, and then show up here tonight.
And they threw you to the wolves. That's wonderful.
I like it. So we can keep doing that. But but I did speak with Ms. Burke about this. This is just modeled off of the Kent code. When we kind of tried to formulate the reasons for why would Kent do it that way, and then why would we keep it that way? It was basically testing the waters. Essentially, there is a difference. One of them is more severe than the other, obviously. Gross misdemeanor and misdemeanor is less severe. But both of them do have jail time as a penalty, and most of them do have, and they all have a fine as a penalty as well, and they're both criminal. And so the difference in the potential sentence that they can get is based on whether they're labeled gross misdemeanor or misdemeanor. The treatment that they get from at least our office, the prosecutor's office, is no different. We've gone to trial on regular misdemeanors because, that's basically how Bonnie Lake wants it done. So we're going to do it that way. So it's kind of the same way with this, where we figured we would adopt the Kent Code in a case where it's a gross misdemeanor, and if, let's say there were to be a competent court that could review it and then overturn it. The court would be more likely to overturn, say, a sentence of 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine, as opposed to a misdemeanor where it would be 90 days, at least if they're being swayed by maybe public opinion or whatever, or severity of the charge. And so we wanted to basically go one step above the bare minimum, which is the misdemeanor for most of them. And we figured that if it works for Kent, it'll work for us, hopefully. And then in the future, if it's something that 90 days is not doing enough for, then Dina always said that, we could get and put something together for this council to review as well to make those gross misdemeanors.
Well, I am very glad to hear that aspect of it, because there's two major differences, or there's one major difference that I can think of right off the top of my head that is different between Kent and us, besides their population and the drug trafficking behavior that happens in Kent versus here. If they were convicted in the city of Kent, and it was to be appealed and got past the Superior Court in King County, it would go to Division 1 of the Court of Appeals, which would seriously consider exactly what you're talking about. Here in Bonnie Lake, if there was a conviction, and you're absolutely right, everybody enjoys their constitutional right to a trial, and I don't expect our city to treat anybody any differently with that. However, as far as the range of punishment on this, if we were to adopt the gross misdemeanor and somebody were to appeal on those grounds, it would go to Division 2. And Division 2 has a reputation of upholding things like this, meaning that if they get one result in the court Division 1, we get a different result in Division 2, then that conflict will go up to the Supremes, and we can't do anything about that. But I do like the law. I want to, hope that the council passes it in that regard. But my comment on this is that I believe that the sections should be considered gross misdemeanors. And I'll be talking with Ms. Burke about what we'll be able to do to amend that, hopefully in the, as fast as it was presented to us in the first place. So that being said, how about we take it to a vote? Yes, Chief Jeter.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo everybody's thoughts on the prosecutor's office getting this done so quickly. You may or may not be aware that the Blake decision actually sunsets next year. And so I am not so sure that the legislature is going to do anything on this and leave it decriminalized. So taking action now is very helpful. I think everybody else, you are aware too that possession of marijuana in public or alcohol in public is currently a crime. So now it makes sense to the use of drugs in public is also a crime. It'll be a great tool for our officers, as Councilmember Baldwin said. Multiple times a day, we are encountering people that are using narcotics. We give referrals, and as Prosecutor Candia said, there is no great way to track it. There's no statewide database. We have a pretty good method in Pierce County of doing that, but we have found that our experience here in Bonnie Lake, we have had 0 people take advantage of the referrals that we've given them. And another point I want to make before you vote is that just because there are penalties associated with this doesn't mean that everybody that we catch doing this is going to jail. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but a lot of these people would be great candidates for the judge's therapeutic court. And I think the ultimate goal is to get these people treatment, and I don't believe we have the proper mechanism to incentivize that. So I think this will be a great mechanism to incentivize people taking those referrals and actually getting treatment. Right now, there is no incentives for them to take the therapeutic court or to take the referral. So I think having a little bit of accountability is going to be another tool for us, the prosecutor and the court, to get these people the help that they need. I think that we're all in agreement. Not everybody needs to go to jail, but the whole idea is to get people better. And I think this is a great mechanism to do it. So we thank you very much from the police department's point of view and working with the prosecutor and the court on this. I think it'll have a great impact on our community.
And Chief, would you agree that part of that de-incentivization, if that is a word, is because we don't have any drug rehab centers here in Bonnie Lake or anything where they can address that, and so getting to those places outside of our city could be part of the reason why they don't want to take advantage of that.
Possibly. I know that the Recovery Cafe in Ording, we've had pretty good luck with them being responsive to our people in need. We're finding more that the resources are becoming more and more available, but people taking advantage of them is remained the same, which is just about 0 people doing that. So there are resources out there. We're just finding that people are not taking those resources and utilizing them. So again, if there's no reason for them to do that, they're probably not going to do that.
Well, I can tell you, Councilmember Fullerton and I had a very personal experience with this about a month, 6 weeks ago. That's of somebody not knowing about the law of either smoking cannabis out in public, because we certainly got a whiff, didn't we? Okay, Councilmember Baldwin.
Yeah, I would definitely say that if people don't face a negative consequence, I fully agree with you. I think if people don't have some sort of negative consequence they're going to face, somebody who is on drugs is not going to say, yeah, let me take the therapeutic court. They need to have some sort of negative consequence associated with the choice, or they're going to choose nothing at all. So yeah, thank you.
I agree. Increased accountability, I think, will be very helpful.
And Councilmember Evans.
And just to that credit, the goal, getting some of the help that they need, is we do have our first graduates graduating from the community court on Monday. So it does work. So
yeah, I'd like to attend that if I can. Deputy Mayor, did you have a comment?
That's actually what I was going to say as well.
Oh,
so.
okay. All right, are we ready to vote on the statute? Or the ordinance? Excuse me, I'm using the wrong jurisdiction. Okay, all in favor of adopting this, the revision to our municipal code, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, looks like it has been adopted. However, Mr. Candy, I am going to be talking with you all about that. Okay, looks like there's no executive or closed session. Seeing no more business, we are adjourned. And thank everybody for the relatively short meeting this time.